Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are going to kick off today our final webinar in our product series, at least for the moment anyway. It's been so fun to do this over the past few months, and we'll start spinning up new webinars later this summer, so stay tuned on that. In the meantime, however, we are going to spend time today reviewing A/B and multivariate testing capabilities in Insightly Marketing, and we're going to demonstrate why this is important and how to use this feature to improve your email marketing strategies. I'm Melinda Prescher, Insightly's Senior Product Marketing Manager. As we were pulling together this webinar, we thought there would be no one better to speak to testing strategies than Insightly's own email marketing campaign manager. I'm happy to say that I have Travis Northup, my colleague on the marketing team, here with us today. I'm going to interview Travis about his campaign and testing strategies, and then have Travis do a really quick demo so you can see what testing looks like in action. So let's walk through the agenda. I'll start with a quick intro, why it's important to start thinking about email testing and include it in your campaign planning. And then I'll spend some time talking about what it is, show you the testing parameters that you can work with in Insightly, show you how it works, and then share some best practices. Then we'll move to a quick interview with Travis so you can hear more about his strategies. And then we'll finish with a short demo from Travis before closing it out. So to set the stage on this, in terms of my own background, I've been involved in marketing testing programs for many years. I actually ran a testing program for a large global bank for their acquisition and retention strategies in which we were performing up to 30 creative tests a month. Testing was a fundamentally integral component of our organizational priority to drive sustained growth. And I've taken those learnings and implemented those strategies for growth in every role that I've had since then. A/B and multivariate tests are used to capture learnings about creative and content, what appeals to customers, what elements of the design and messaging compel someone to take an action, whether that's opening an email, clicking a link, asking for a demo or a sales conversation, and ultimately driving high quality pipeline and conversion. Testing affords you the opportunity to drive changes in your messaging and creative in a really strategic way. And because it's based on quantitative metrics, it empowers you to drive creative decision-making, not by feeling or instinct or opinion, but rather on data. I'm sure many of you in marketing have experienced the following situation. Creative and design decisions can sometimes feel a little bit arbitrary based on assumptions, personal opinions, political considerations, or maybe even driven by the loudest voice at the table or on the Zoom call. Testing takes all of that out of the equation because it's a really data-driven approach to make changes to your email, and it creates a feedback loop informed not by opinion, but based on actual customer preference and action. The other important angle on testing is that companies are expected to deliver great experiences to customers by leveraging more complex elements like segmentation, targeted messaging. And that means that actually more content and creative is actually required to create those versions. You get more content and creative and ultimately more fine-tuned strategies by making the decision to invest more in your marketing. Testing is so important here because typically it's pretty hard to create investment rationale to support changes in budget for future success without that quantitative proof of what you're doing. And with testing, you can tie lift and performance directly to those changes that you're learning about via testing. And finally, customers can actually quickly tire of seeing the same content over and over again. Stale or overused content and creative can suppress performance of your campaigns. Ultimately, you're trying to drive gains in conversion, and testing is the best way to do that in an ongoing and strategic, planful way. So what is it? So testing starts with a question that leads to a hypothesis. Will a customer respond better to subject line A or B? Will longer or shorter body copy perform better? What messaging works best for our key personas? What's the best time to send emails? How do customers respond when they receive an email that is coming from someone on our team or from a more general account name? Will customers respond better to a call to action placed in the center of the email or at the bottom, or if they're exposed to it a couple of times in an email? A/B and multivariate testing are actually quite similar. The primary difference is really that with A/B testing, you're choosing one variable to evaluate at a time. For example, with A/B testing, you would test the difference between subject line A and subject line B, but the rest of the creative elements and email timing would be the same. Multivariate testing empowers you to test multiple elements of an email in a single test with multiple versions. You can test two subject lines and two different types of messaging and two from names at once. So if you were to test those three variables in a single test, you'd basically have 2 times 2 times 2 or 8 different creative versions in your test, and you determine a winner from those options. Because you have more creative versions in a multivariate test, it requires a greater number of email recipients to accommodate those versions, since you're splitting traffic between the 8 versions, not just a couple of versions in A/B testing. And here you'll get the answer to the question, which subject line and creative and from name, for example, performs the best. So I've been alluding to the test criteria in Insightly Marketing on the past two slides, but I want to spell it out really clearly here. You can see this in the slide. In Insightly Marketing, you can test subject lines, from names, email content, and send times. If you're testing subject lines, you're really looking to evaluate whether you can capture interest and get recipients to open emails. If you're testing from names, recipients might be more responsive to emails coming from a person's name or from the name of your company or organization. You're trying to figure that out. So you could provide a test name like Travis, for example, or the Insightly team, and an email address for each email test. So this testing variable has an impact on open rates. You're developing trust with your recipient. Another factor is email content. So users can create different versions of email content to see which version gets a better response. This provides the user with data on making improvements to click-through rates and really engaging customers with your calls to action. And then finally, send time. Users can leverage this variable to learn when recipients are most likely to open emails. And obviously, the results of this test can be used to inform when to send or schedule future emails so that you're reaching customers at the right time. And you'll see during Travis's demo just how simple it is to set up these tests. You can literally create a test in minutes. And how is a winner chosen? Winners are determined based on open rate. So you can see that in the graphic on the side down at the bottom. You can choose open rate or click-through rate. You set that parameter when you build the test. You also control how long the test will run. Travis will talk about this a little bit more too during the demo. Insightly recommends that you test at least 5,000 recipients in a population to ensure confidence in the test result. Once a winner is identified by Insightly, all remaining recipients will receive the winning creative at the time that you determine. Travis will walk through that too. That is for all three criteria other than send time. Since that's a fixed moment in time, you leverage your learnings on send time for future campaigns. And finally, we've captured a few best practices to help you as you start to think about implementing your own testing programs. So where to start? Start by gathering and analyzing all the data that you have on your email program today. In order to come up with a solution to improve conversion through testing, you have to be able to understand and articulate what your challenges are, where you feel there are gaps in performance. And for marketers, there are typically a few ways that you can capture this information. So take a look at your existing data on open rates and click-through rates on previous campaigns and see where your strong performers are. Compare that to other emails that did not perform as well. Start creating your hypotheses based on what could have been done more effectively. Also, you can get feedback from customers or others within your company who might have a fresh perspective on what they think of your email communications. And based on their answers, start developing your optimization strategy too. Use advocacy groups for external feedback, and use your quarterly planning sessions for internal feedback. And then finally, for many marketers who've been doing this for a while, use your experience in developing messaging and positioning to help guide your thinking in terms of creating hypotheses about where improvements can be made. Next, draw up a creative brief to describe your hypotheses. And when you create a hypothesis, be really specific. When I change body copy and call to action in this email campaign and expose 10% of the population to this change, I expect to see a click-through rate improvement of 1%, for example. Develop a clear, concise test matrix and include your thought process and rationale for the reasons why you're testing what you're testing. Most importantly, you need to start thinking about the outcomes that you're going to drive once you get the answers from your tests. You want to know what subject lines drive open rates, and once you do, you can start creating similar messaging for future campaigns. Or you can find great placement and messaging for your calls to action so that you can replicate that in future campaigns. Creating this level of specificity will help you and others plan for the future and create a rationale for more testing, creative budget, more writing resources, and driving visibility for your effort. One of the key reasons to test is to learn more about customer preference so that you can deliver experiences that delight customers. So build your future test plans using the learnings that you get from your tests. Anything that you've done in the past is something that you're going to plow into future tests. And ultimately, you want to continue testing because fatigue is real. If you use the same layout every single time, year over year, for a newsletter, you will see performance degradation. If your offer creative is the same every single time, at some point, customers are going to stop reading. Testing helps refresh your creative and develop new options to sustain and grow customer interest in what you have to offer. So let's move on. We are going to start with, before the demo, we're going to start with a quick interview with Travis. So Travis and I have been working together at Insightly for a little over a year, and we wanted to share some feedback on what Travis is doing with our email program. So Travis, it's really great to have you here today. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience.
Hi, I'm Travis. I work at Insightly doing marketing. Before I worked at Insightly, I cut my teeth at a large demand generation and lead generation company called Ziff Davis B2B. Since then, I've just been jumping from startup to startup, helping them build their demand gen pipelines. And now I'm at Insightly as their campaign marketing manager. So what I do is I help drive demand for our product and create leads for sales. And I do that through email marketing, through account-based marketing, basically anything that has a chance of creating somebody who could be a customer. I have my sticky fingers in it. So.
Sounds good. So Travis, I'd like to set the stage by having you tell the audience just a little bit more about the Insightly email program. So where was it when you started about a year or so ago?
Yeah, when I started about a year ago, we had just transitioned off of our legacy marketing automation software, which was Marketo. And so there wasn't a ton built within Insightly Marketing at the time. It was a pretty new product. We were an early adopter of our own solution. We were doing some things. We had a newsletter that was going strong, has lots of readers, has always really done well for us because people seem to really want to know what the newest updates are and that sort of thing for Insightly. But we were limited in kind of our reach and how specific we were targeting people. And so we've expanded a lot. We've done a ton of customer segmentation so that we make sure we're speaking to the exact correct subset of our audience. We've done advanced journeys, evergreen journeys, upsell journeys, nurtures, you name it. So we've built a ton, but that's where we've gone in just the short year since I joined the team.
That is great. How did you start thinking about your process for expanding and improving our email marketing focus?
Yeah, I guess the main thing is getting more granular, right? Like our newsletter, which I cited as an example, has always been really strong for us, but we knew it was well read, but we didn't know that we were getting the right message to people. And so diving in and making sure that the right audience is getting the right content. And I'll talk about this later, but one of the things we were able to solve with A/B testing was making sure all of the things that appear in the newsletter appear at the right time, in the right slot. So testing through that. Um, and then from there, we've done advanced list segmentation. We've done focused territories. Sorry, somebody's saying it's hard to hear me. I'm going to turn up my gain here. Is that
Okay.
better?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
good.
thank you. Yeah, and then we've done prospect scoring and grading. That was huge. We were one of the first customers to start using that feature on our platform. And just honing our message, making sure our creative was effective and was actually getting the responses that we wanted and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, we've done a ton of improvements, and we'll continue to do so because that's what it's all about.
That's great. So let's transition now. How are you weaving A/B and multivariate testing into our email strategies?
Yeah, so I think we were all stoked when we got A/B and multivariate testing added to the product earlier this year, I think it was. I think every marketer loves testing and they know kind of the value there of doing it. So having that in Insightly Marketing and having it be so easy to set up was awesome. We've tested pretty much everything, all of the variables you can test. So we did subject lines, send times, the actual content, the from names, all of that stuff. And our strategy has been to test it in one-off emails, and then if it works, implement it into our standing journeys and make it like a part of our process, and then continue to test over time to make sure that those strategies are still working. And we've learned a lot. So one example is just subject line. Uh, for the newsletter as an example, just go back to that. Does the email subject line need to have the word newsletter in it, or is it better to focus on some sort of topic in the headline, in the subject line that will get people to click more? We found out that it was the latter. Our send times, we found out that our audience really seems to open emails at in the early morning, 8 a.m. or so. So, they're getting out of bed or brushing their teeth or whatever before work, and they check their email and they click on the Insightly newsletter to see what's going on with our product. We've developed much better messaging, right? And been able to target it at specific audiences through advanced list segmentation. So sending content to different types of people and seeing if it resonated. Messaging for small businesses that goes just to our small businesses, and messaging for larger enterprises that go to our larger companies, all that sort of stuff. And then we've also done the send name. So we found out, we did a little testing at the beginning. Does an email from Travis on the marketing team work better, or is it better to say just the Insightly team? And we found out, again, it was the latter. People like to get it from the Insightly team, and that had a much higher open rate. So that sort of has been our strategy going forward. And I should just caveat, these are the things that we learned about our audience. You should not take what I'm saying here as gospel truth that it's going to work for your audience. You need to do your own testing and kind of see what works for you. But these are some of the things that we were able to uncover through multivariate testing over the course of 6 to 12 months or however long it's been that we've been doing it. Yeah, it's been great. We're going to continue to test, but those were the things we were able to learn so far.
How would you quantify the way testing has helped our business?
Yeah, I guess the main way it's helped us is, our marketing team is able to make much more data-driven decisions because we see the tests, and A/B testing is a really like sterilized way to test without a ton of different variables getting in the way. So it's allowed us on the marketing team and also our leadership team to see our data and then know that we're going in the right direction and that we're following the numbers and we're chasing performance and we're always trying to get better. And I think that is huge. And it's also helped us generate leads. So whether they're existing customers that we're targeting with the correct information, trying to get them to upgrade, to use more of our platform or that sort of thing, or if they're non-customers that we're just trying to get our foot in the door and tell them about Insightly marketing. It has helped with lead generation because now we know our content is more effective, our headlines are more clickable, our send times are optimized, all that stuff. And it just helps us generate more business for the company.
So before we transition to the demo, let's close this out with any learnings or best practices that you'd like to share.
Yeah, I guess the main thing we've learned through trial and error, to be honest, is that you really should go into an A/B or multivariate test knowing what you're trying to learn from that test. And I think that's really important. Trying two different headlines for an email that you're going to send uh, is nice. You maybe can gain some stuff from that, but you should try to know exactly what you're trying to learn from that and how it's going to affect your actions going forward. So it can't just be, just a random shot in the dark. I'm going to try two different headlines and see what happens. Come up with a hypothesis and try to prove or disprove it with your test email, and know what that hypothesis is, or how your behavior might change based on what your results are before you send it. And I think that's something that we've gotten really good at doing now. We'll do tests to specifically see if we should change one thing. Like, hey, let's do this test. And then based on the results, like, we'll know going forward for our other campaigns that we should do this. And then I think the other thing is keep testing. Like, that's ultra important. Is once you get an answer, you can't just assume it's always going to be true. So for us, emails in the early morning are working right now. That doesn't mean that they always will. And so we're going to keep doing testing. And if trends change, we will adapt. And I think that's also very important, is don't take, one result as, being true forever. That's definitely not the case in my experience. So keep testing and know what you're trying to get out of a test before you launch it. Those are my best practices.
Sounds great. So Travis, I'm going to stop sharing now and I will hand it over to you for the demo.
Excellent. So if you've ever been in Insightly Marketing, you're familiar with the emails page. There it is in all of its beautiful blue glory. And if you're on the email tab here, you can see there's a little drop down button here. This is how you access A/B and multivariate testing. Melinda did a great job of kind of giving an overview here, but for the purposes of our demo, we're just going to show A/B testing. Multivariate testing uses an identical interface and setup process. It just allows you to add more variables. So not a lot of complexity there, but for our purposes, we're going to just do an A/B test just to show you how it works. All right, so you're familiar with this. This is the screen where you kind of create your email, you decide what folder it's going to be in, and you pick your list. For us, we're going to do an NYC event attended list. So these are a theoretical list of people who attended an event of ours in New York. This is a demo account, so they're not real humans, but that's what we're going to pretend our sample is. All right, before I dive into this page, I do want to give one disclaimer. This is a test demo account, so I don't have live data in this portal. So you are going to see that our total email recipients down here is 146 prospects. You would want your list to be a lot bigger than that to do A/B testing. We recommend at least 5,000. And if you're doing multivariate testing, probably more. So ignore that number, pretend that there's tens of thousands there, but for the purposes, it's just going to look a little funky. All right, let's start our test. So first, you got to decide what variables you want to test. In my case, I'm going to keep it simple and just test subject lines because it's very easy. And I'm going to do 3 different subject lines, which is the maximum amount of variables it'll let me do, or maximum amount of email combinations, unless I choose multivariate testing, which I'm not. I'm just doing an A/B test right now. So I pick 3 subject lines. And then now you can see it's automatically breaking it down between the test segment size, people that are going to serve as our guinea pigs and receive different versions of the email. And then our winning segment size, which are only going to receive whichever email wins after the win conditions are met and your test has run its course. And it's also important to note you can alter this. So you can decide, okay, if I've got a huge list, maybe only 5% should be my guinea pigs, and the other 95% will just receive whichever version won. Or if you don't have a lot of people, like if you've only got 5,000 people on your list, you might want to make your entire list the test size. And so that means that nobody will receive the winning version once it's been decided, but you can take your learnings and apply them to a different email campaign later, which is what I've done a lot. I just, pick a list and I do a test with that. Everybody's part of the test list, and then I apply the learnings to a different campaign. But, I'm just going to set it to 10% for the example. So we're testing 10%, 90% are going to receive the winning combination. And then I get to determine how the winner is chosen, right? You can do email open or click rate. Because I'm testing subject lines, I probably want to choose open rate because the subject line you can see without opening it. So I'm trying to figure out which of my email subject lines is the most clickable. And I'm going to set the test time for 1 day. So after 1 day has elapsed, a winner will be declared, and then the other 90% of this list will receive the winning email. And so that is my AB variable setup. As you can see, it's super simple. Just lets you choose the conditions of your test and what you are actually wanting to test. And then you click next. And here in the email setup page, it is exactly the same as setting a normal email, except for now there are 3 different subject lines. If I had chosen my email from address, there would be 3 versions of that. If I had chosen send times, there would be 3 versions of that. So as you can see, it's pretty straightforward. It just adds additional options to our existing UI. So I would put the names of my subject lines in here, decide on where I want the from email address to be, pick a send time, and then everything else, the content, summary, finish, is exactly the same as sending a normal email in Insightly Marketing. So if you've done that, you don't really have to learn anything new. And that's it. It's super simple, allows you to easily set up a test and go. And then once the test has been completed, you'll start to see those pop up in the statistics tab on the email itself. So you can figure out how did the test go, who won, and how many people received the winning version of the email, and which email did they receive, all that stuff. So that's it.
Excellent. Travis, thank you so much for sharing with us today. That was great. And also, to your point, it's just like really easy to get started with this. So this brings us to the end of the conversation, and also the end of this product webinar series that's been in motion since last December. Thank you so much for joining us today. It really means a lot that you took time out to join us, spend time with us, and learn. And don't hesitate to reach out to us if you want to chat and help us understand how we can help you reach your objectives and create impact. Thanks again.